Moving on to the next pattern, it is a simple right angle triangle, but it is not as simple as printing a square and rectangle. There is some logic which is involved in printing this particular pattern. That is, follow the same steps. The first step would be to divide the entire pattern in the form of rows and columns, which we have done here, and label them starting from R0 to R3 and C0 to C3. So the input would be the number of rows R. So this will be the user input. And we also know that we need two loops to print this particular pattern. One loop to travel across different rows and the other inner loop to travel across different columns. Now coming to the analysis part, we know that the row loop, which is the outermost loop, should run 4 times. And the column loop should run how many times? Let us actually see through the descriptions, that is the cell addresses. So the first star's address is R0 and C0. As you can see here, when R is 0 and C is 0, we are printing a star. Now moving on to the next row, R1, C0, R1, C1. When R is equal to 1 and C is 1, when R is 1 and C is 0, we are going to print, and R is 1 and C is equal to 1, we print. Moving on to R2 and R3, we are going to follow the same process. Now, we already knew that the outer row loop runs from 0 to 3. That is 0, R1, R2, and R3. It is running 4 times basically, starting from 0 to 3. And the inner column loop is running how many times? In order to analyze this, we need to check the pattern. Closely observe this entire pattern, you will find a relationship. See, in the first case, when R is 0, C is 0. When R is 1, C is going up to 1. When R is 2, C is going up to 2. When R is 3, C goes up to 3. So what is the logic that we can derive from this particular pattern? For any given R, C is less than or equal to R. Why it is not only less than? Because as you can see here, when R is 2, C goes all the way up to 2. That's the reason for any given R, C will be less than or equal to R. So this is the logic for the column loop. And this is going to be the code logic. R travels from 0 to n. N is the number of rows here. And again, we are going to come to the innermost loop, that is the column loop, and C goes from 0 to less than or equal to R. As we saw here, whenever R is 2, C goes all the way up to 2. So C is less than or equal to R. So C is less than or equal to R. So this is R here. So there's a link between the first loop and the second loop. And you're going to print a star. So whenever you finish printing an entire row, you're going to print a new line, moving on to a different row and follow the same process. When R is 1, C will go from 0 to 1. When R is 2, C will go from 0, 1 up to 2. And when R is 3, C goes from 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the entire logic to print a right angle triangle.